Well, hello everyone. Good evening and welcome. And I'm rather surprised to find myself here speaking to you at this time in this video, because I didn't think I was going to get a video done at all today. So I'm almost surprised to find myself sitting here filming a video. And the reason it's so surprising is that today actually would have been the perfect day to do videos, lots of videos if I'd wanted to. Because it's the first day in a long time that I've had entirely to myself. Pete's away for the day and the evening, back tomorrow. It's a Saturday, so I've had no work to do, and I've had very little that I needed to do today, other than I had one appointment in the morning, somebody coming to look at the loft and doing the possibility of a loft conversion, of which more later, because that is relevant to the topic of this video. But other than that, I literally have had nothing in particular to do. There's things I could have done, you know, there's like housework and things like that, but I haven't. Nothing that I had to do. So videos would have been very much in the offing for today. But the reason I didn't do the videos was, oh my god, talking about housework, the cobwebs in that corner of the room are, well, frankly embarrassing. I might have to take a picture of those cobwebs and try and splice it into the video so you can see them. That is awful. I don't often see that part. It's like an alcove to the right of the fireplace, and there are lots of cobwebs. It looks kind of cool because it's kind of a bit gothic-y and so on, and actually I might just leave them up because Halloween is coming. But it's also embarrassing. Time to dust, I think. Time to dust. So, where was I? Yes, so today would have been the perfect day to do videos, but the reason I didn't do any videos today was, quite frankly, I have just been in the most kind of mood. You know, the kind of mood where everything just pees you off. That kind of mood. So it's not like I've been, you know, grumping at anyone, because there's been nobody here to grump at, which is probably just as well. And it's not like I've been, you know, raging even internally. It's just one of these days where I have just not felt like doing anything, and everything I've started to do has bored me, and everything that I've tried to watch or read or any of that kind of stuff has bored me, or worse, has annoyed me. You know, people on television have annoyed me, noises of people outside has annoyed me, the weather has annoyed me because it was nice and crisp and autumnal for a while, and now it's gone back to that kind of muggy, warm, damp kind of weather, which just really irritates me. And so I just thought, I'm not going to put anyone through it, because if I go on camera, I'll probably start ranting, a bit like I'm doing now, actually. And I don't want to do a ranty video. Except maybe I do want to do a ranty video. Maybe that's why I'm on here doing a bit of a ranty video. But actually no, it's because I've got something that I want to say that has come into my consciousness, partly as a result of how I've been feeling today, but also what I've done today. So, and it's not even as though there's a particular reason for me feeling grumpy. There's nothing that's triggered it in particular. There is a kind of underlying issue at the moment, and it's all to do with this house conversion that we're doing that I've spoken to you about before. And it's not really a house conversion, it's more like a kind of modernisation. So the house that we are in is, it's a 1920s semi, and it's a lovely house. We rented it for a few years before we bought it, so, you know, we knew what we were getting. And it is a lovely house. It's got lots of character, it's got original fireplaces, etc, etc. It's got quarry tile stone floors downstairs and in the hallway and in the kitchen, etc. It's got some lovely original features. Unfortunately, it also has rising damp and condensation issues. And also we have just discovered a slight touch of the mould, which you would expect, of course, in a damp house. And that in itself isn't a problem, because that can all be put right, that can all be sorted, and in fact we're in the process of doing that, but that's resulting in having spent quite a lot of money and a lot of time getting it all sorted. We've just had a new roof fitted. The new roof is on, and fingers crossed it seems to be doing the job of keeping the rain out and all that kind of stuff. And there's still scaffolding all around the house, that'll be taken away in a few days. There's a skip in the front garden, and that'll be taken away in a few days. But the roof is on, so that's a step forward in the house improvements process. The damp thing is really getting on my wick though, because it's not that it's terribly uncomfortable or anything. It's not like it feels damp, actually physically damp. But it does mean that parts of the house, depending on the atmosphere, depending on the way the wind is blowing, and depending on the humidity in the air, it means that sometimes parts of the house can smell a bit damp. And I seem to be particularly sensitive to those smells. So, you know, I find myself being very aware of them. And in fact, I've got, at the moment I'm burning, I can't even remember what I'm burning. I think it's dragon's blood resin. But anyway, I burn incense, not smoky incense, because that goes for my throat, but kind of resin incense. I melt it, I think I've shown it in a previous video. I melt it on a foil kind of thing, foil top, and it imbues the air with lovely fragrances, and that's very nice and so on. But I actually do it quite a lot just to mask the other kind of musty, mildewy smell, which is not terribly pleasant. But that's kind of doing my head in, because in order to get that sorted, we are going to have to do quite a number of things. And, you know, rising damp is going to require us to have some of the floors dug up and replaced, and also replastering done downstairs in some of the rooms, possibly all of the rooms if we decide to go that far. And the condensation issue means we have to have some extra ventilation put in. We've already had some, and maybe a kind of positive input ventilation system that blows or gently blows air through the house. And really we could do with new windows, although we probably won't get to them this year. And it's not that doing any of these things is particularly annoying me. It's just that the management of it is taking up so much time and so much mental energy. And I'm not really a kind of practically minded do-it-yourself, or even, you know, supervise somebody else who's doing it kind of person. So I've got no clue, you know, when things are done properly and when they're not done properly. And so there's that horrible moment when you have work done and the work person is, you know, showing you around, and you're being asked to just, you know, sign it off or check that you're happy with it. And I'm thinking, I've got no clue. I don't know. I mean, with a roof, I just kind of think, will it stay on? Will it... Either it stays on or it falls off. If it stays on, that's a good thing. If it falls off, that's not a good thing. Also, is it watertight? All the other stuff about, you know, drainage and whether it's breathable and whether there's a permeable membrane in it and all that kind of stuff, I don't care. Well, I do care because I've got to live here and I've got to live with it, but I don't care. I don't want to talk about those kind of things. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. So I'm finding the whole process of managing this a bit of a pain, because it does take up a lot of time, and then, you know, you have that kind of slightly nervous moment where you commission a piece of work and then you think, is this really what we need? Should I have got more quotes? Blah, 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 blah. And also, I'm slightly anxious that, you know, we're going to get all this work done, and what happens if it doesn't solve the problem? Because the thing about kind of musty smells is it's very difficult to determine where they are coming from. And so, although it does seem likely that they're coming from the floor downstairs that's a bit damp, and where there's rising damp and also condensation in the house, there is that worry that maybe they're coming from something that we haven't found yet, or haven't addressed yet. Or the other thing is the chimneys, the fireplaces, because we've got downstairs, we've got 2 open fireplaces that are usable. So in other words, the hearth is open, you can put coal or wood or whatever in and burn it, and the chimney pots are open at the top, so the smoke can go out, so they can actually be used as open fires, which is lovely when you can be bothered to do it. But it's also a bit cold when you can't, because then all the cold air comes in and warm air goes out, etc. And then upstairs we only really use one of them, so there's 2 of them, we only really use one. And then upstairs there are 2 fireplaces that are technically usable, in that they have got full chimneys going to the outside world, but those chimneys are capped, so we couldn't use them at the moment because the chimneys are capped and you'd have to uncap them. And they're also blocked up in the hearth, and they're blocked up with a pile of old bricks and mortar behind a kind of ornamental fireplace. And I have a feeling there may be some damp behind those. So we're probably going to have at least the fireplaces taken off and then the hearth emptied out, and then decide whether we want to repurpose them into like a ornamental alcove or turn them back into open fires, which is probably not practical upstairs, or have them converted into, you know, another kind of fire. So that's a bit of a drag as well, because that's going to take a lot of time and effort and mess. And then also we've actually got 6 fireplaces in this house. So in this room there's a fireplace, but that is not usable because it actually, the chimney has been taken down into the attic, and so there's just the chimney in the attic, this kind of open chimney stack, and that's not blocked off. There's just, I think it's just empty behind there. So and that's the same in the kitchen, because the one below it is the kitchen one. So so yeah, so that's that probably needs to be looked at as well. So there's all this kind of housey stuff going on, and it's getting to the point now where the moment one thing is done, something else comes onto the table, etc, etc. So I am finding my mind at the moment is very much on all of this, and that's kind of annoying me because there are other things I want my mind to be on. So yeah, so that's probably the underlying main source of my underlying unease today. Because quite often I'm able to just, you know, switch off from that and you know, focus on other things. But today I've actually had one of those days where I've really found myself coming back to the issue of the house, and should we do that, or should we do this, or what if that doesn't work? And consequently that has put me in a bit of a crappy mood. But I'll get over it. That's fine, I'll get over it. But, oh well, before I tell you the but, there is a but. But before that, the other thing to say is that I mentioned that everything's kind of annoying me, and most things have been, you know, boring me, and I've tried to watch a bit of television and I've not enjoyed what I've watched, and I've tried to read a book and I just wasn't concentrating. So at dinner time I decided to watch one of my favourite programmes of the moment, which is Gogglebox. And for those of you who are not in the UK, and those of you who are in the UK but don't watch Gogglebox, I better explain what it is. So Gogglebox is this programme where members of the public who have been chosen for the programme, for their entertainment value basically, are filmed watching programmes on television. Now I know it sounds bizarre, and when I first heard about this programme I thought, that is just bonkers and I've got no interest in watching that. And then one day I caught an episode of Gogglebox and I am absolutely hooked because it is hysterical. So you see these people watching a programme, and what you're seeing is their reaction to the programme, and you also see clips of the programme. So it can be very funny because they come up with really pithy things, and you know, you find whether you agree with them or don't agree with them and so on. And anyway, I love it. It's usually very, very entertaining. So, excuse me, I need another sip of coffee. So I do enjoy it, and I thought I'll watch Gogglebox because that always cheers me up. So I had my dinner and I watched Gogglebox, and in this particular episode of Gogglebox there was a very funny moment where they were watching, the people in the programme were watching An American Werewolf in London, the horror film. And I love it when the Goggleboxers watch horror films because you inevitably see them have their moments of fright reactions, and I find that very enjoyable because one of the things I find funniest in the world is watching people get a fright, which is a terrible thing to admit, but it's true. It's just one of the things that really cracks me up. And it does if I get a fright. If somebody gives me a fright and I jump out of my skin, I just think it's absolutely hysterically funny. And it's true if I see somebody else get a fright as well. So I can quite often get caught. Oh, I'm sitting on my, oh, my leg, sorry, I just got a cramp in my leg. You see, it's one of those days. So, yes, one of the things I can do is I can get down the rabbit hole of scare cam on YouTube, which is where people get filmed getting a fright, and that can be very funny as well. Although that annoyed me today because I watched a scare cam video earlier and it wasn't very good, so that kind of narked me a bit more. Anyway, where was I? Gogglebox. So they were watching an American Werewolf in London, and it got to the bit at the beginning of the film, or near the beginning of the film, where the werewolf strikes. And there's two lads walking across the moors, and the werewolf jumps them. And as I thought, the Goggleboxers got the fright of their lives and were screaming and jumping out of their seats and all that kind of stuff, which was absolutely joyous to see. But there's like a double fright in American Werewolf in London. There's a bit where a bloke, they're running across the moors and this bloke trips over and you get a bit of a fright because it's very sudden and you think something's happened. And then the other bloke who's with him says, "Oh, you gave me a fright." And the guy that's on the ground because he tripped over says, "Oh, aren't you going to help me up?" And so the one who's standing up says, "Yes, I'll help you up," and puts his hand out. And just at that point, a werewolf appears and, "Rah!" and jumps on him, and and you get another fright, you see. Well, and it was great because watching Gogglebox, they got another fright, like a doubly amplified fright, which was absolutely wonderful. So I really enjoyed that. But my enjoyment was somewhat tempered by the fact that at the very moment the second fright came, the werewolf came, from the back garden, which is beside where I was sitting watching Gogglebox, because we watched television in the back garden room, there was this almighty animalistic shrieking noise that nearly made me lay an egg because I got the fright of my life. And of course it was my dear little Maya, who was having an altercation with her arch nemesis Fluffy Cat. And so this kind of first of all, which just about, you know, made me swallow my tongue. And then while I was kind of regaining my composure and rewinding Gogglebox so I can watch the bit that I wanted to see, there was this strange keening noise which Maya sometimes makes when she's trying to scare another cat off, usually a Fluffy Cat. And this kind of noise, which is just, it's a bit blood curdling actually. And so that was a bit distressing, and that went on for about a full minute, and then, you know, eventually it stopped, and a bit later on she came in. She's fine with most cats. Well, she's a bit kind of fine is probably too strong a word. She tolerates most cats, but she absolutely hates Fluffy Cat's guts. So other cats will come through the garden and Maya will, you know, she'll kind of shoo them off, or she'll just peer at them warily. And if they get too close to her, she'll maybe give them a bit of a swipe. But with Fluffy Cat, she has been known to follow Fluffy Cat from one of our neighbours' gardens through our garden and into the next neighbour's garden, just so she can jump on Fluffy Cat's head. Now we think Fluffy Cat is a boy, he's much bigger than her, and you know, you'd think he would be much stronger, but she regularly ends up with him pinned to the ground, beating the living shit out of him. And you know, it's a terrible thing to say, but we never particularly liked Fluffy Cat, even before we had Maya, because Fluffy Cat has got an unfortunate face, because he's got markings on his face. It's just the pattern of markings on his fur that make him look like he's got one of those really supercilious expressions. You know how sometimes you see someone who looks at you like they're really looking down their nose at you a bit, you know, and you just want to smack them in the face? Not literally, of course, but figuratively. You just think, there is a face that is made for a frying pan. Well, Fluffy Cat falls into that category, unfortunately, because of these markings across his face, which make him look like he's going like this. Now, that is in no way me excusing Maya's terrible behaviour to Fluffy Cat by jumping on him and beating him up. But it's kind of true that Fluffy Cat, I think he's actually called Max. We don't know that for sure, but our neighbour thinks that this cat is called Max, but we call him Fluffy Cat because he's got lots of fluffy fur, naturally enough. And unfortunately, he has got one of these faces that just provokes this reaction, and so we think that might be something to do with why Maya constantly attacks him. But also it's because he encroaches on her territory, and she, of course, is protecting us. Anyway, she eventually came back in, looking very innocent. And I said, Maya, have you been attacking Fluffy Cat again? And she looked at me, just the picture of innocence. But as she was standing looking at me, her paws were on the wooden floor in the garden room, and they had these great big huge tufts of white hair attached to them. Now Maya's not got any white hair, well she's got a little tiny patch, but she's a black cat. This was Fluffy Cat's fur. Clumps of Fluffy Cat's fur in her claws. And she was standing there looking the picture of innocence. So I'm talking about you. She's here actually. Let me just see if she'll... Will you come on camera, Maya? I won't pick her up because she might not appreciate it. Look, she's in her basket. Little mope. Now look, Maya. There you are. She doesn't like this very much. Like, why are you showing me off? What's going on? I'll put you back. Look, you're on camera, Maya. Look. YouTube world. I'll put you back. That's her put me down or I shall go away expression, I think. There we are. So anyway, Maya did not annoy me. I have to say, Maya actually kind of cheered me up when she came back. Not because she'd beaten up Fluffy Cat, but just because she, you know, her antics always kind of bring a smile to my face. So that was that. Then what else? Ah, yes, the but. So all of this great long rambling blether is to tell you that despite the fact that I was having a pretty crappy day in terms of how I was feeling, and actually there was a number of things that I intended to do, like go to the post office because I had something to post, and there was I had to write something for someone, and I haven't done that yet, and I haven't had time to do it. Well, I did have time to do it, but just couldn't get my head around doing it. So there were things that I could have done today and should have done today and didn't do, and that kind of peed me off and made me more frustrated. But there was one thing that I decided or told myself before today I was going to try and do, and because of how I was feeling today I thought there's just no way in hell it's going to happen, but it did happen, and this is the revelation. So the thing in question is I decided that today, because I have part of the day to, or all of the day to myself after our loft conversion appointment, I decided I was going to do a bit of work on my novel, which I've been planning for months, if not years now, and keep saying I'm going to get to, and I've kind of promised myself I'm going to write a first draft of in November of this year, which, oh my god, is next month, and now I'm beginning to panic. So I thought, okay, if you're going to be ready to do a first draft of the novel, you're going to have to revise and flesh out the outline that you've put together, which I actually put together quite a while ago, several weeks ago, when I had a bit of time to myself. But of course, the way that I was feeling today, I just thought that's not going to happen, Brian. You're not going to be able to revise the outline to a novel when you're in this stinking foul mood. Anyway, a bit earlier on, I was upstairs, I was on my computer, doing something else, probably being frustrated by that scare cam thing on YouTube that didn't bloody interest me and didn't make me laugh the way that it normally does. And I actually just thought, well, I'll just have a quick look at my novel outline. I'll have a look at what I did in Scrivener a little while ago. So I opened up the Scrivener file for the novel and I started reading my notes. And I discovered a couple of hours later that I had spent the best part of that couple of hours revising my outline. And I've not finished it. I'm going to do a bit more now probably, if I've still got the energy after filming this video. But I did it. And here is the revelation. Here is the revelation. I did it. I did this thing that I thought I was going to need to be motivated and full of positivity for. I did it when I was feeling pretty crappy and demotivated and tired and narky and discombobulated and just basically not at all on my game. I mean, at all. Really feeling out of my comfort zone, not comfort zone, off my game, just off my game, very much off my game. So, I did it, and I suppose there's two things that come from that, two revelations. The first one is just the very basic one of it reminded me of something that I often tell my coaching clients when I'm trying to help them, or they're trying to deal with procrastination and I'm trying to help them to do that. And that is sometimes that you just need to start the thing that you are putting off. I mean, just don't tell yourself you're going to do the whole thing. Just start doing the thing, and then I'll give yourself permission to start it and then finish it immediately if you want to. But don't give yourself permission to not start. So it's like if you need to cut the grass, you know, just get the bloody lawnmower out of the shed and start cutting the grass. And if after you've done that first bit you think, you know what, I don't want to do this, stop doing it. But of course the chances are, because the lawnmower is out and because you've started it and because you're going on the lawn, you're just going to keep going. And so it is with almost anything. And I often try to support my clients in looking at procrastination that way, but I often forget to apply that advice to myself, as is so often the case. But today I didn't forget, or I kind of did forget, but I did it by accident. So I opened up the file in Scrivener, I started noodling around just by reading it first of all, and then thinking, oh, that word doesn't quite work, I'll change that, and maybe I could move that paragraph down. And all of a sudden I was in it, I was in the flow, I was actually doing the task of revising the manuscript, or revising the outline, rather. And the way I feel now is I actually feel quite excited about going back to it. So that's good. So that was the first part of the revelation, that sometimes you just need to start. Then the other part of the revelation was that you do not have to be in a good mood to do good. And I don't mean do good in the kind of moral sense of goody two-shoes stuff, I just mean do some good work. You don't need to be in a good mood to get started and get something done. And it seemed like a revelation, but actually it makes a lot of sense, because when you think about it, most of the important things we do in life, we do whether we're in a good mood or not. So if we go to school, you know, when you're a kid and you go to school, you've got no choice. You've got to go to school. Your parents pack you off to school. It does not matter whether you're having a good day or a bad day. You go to school, you hopefully study as much as you're able, and you do as well as you possibly can, etc., etc. When you eventually get to your exams, you do the best you can and you get the grades you get. But basically it's not based on whether you feel good about it or not good about it. You just do it. You don't wait to feel good to pay your taxes or pay your rent. You pay your rent or your mortgage whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood. It's got nothing to do with your mood. And yet so much of what we try to achieve for ourselves, we think it's really attached to our mood. So we think we've got to be positive thinking go-getters in order to achieve anything, or, you know, make our dreams come true or any of that stuff. And it's bollocks, complete bollocks. You can do all the things that you want to do, whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood, or as most of us are for most of the time, a kind of in-between mood. And obviously I'm not talking here about if you are, you know, clinically depressed and actually cannot get out of bed or something, or having a really hard time with mental health problems. I know that all of that, of course, can have an impact on whether you can and can't do things. I'm talking here about just general, the kind of general spectrum of moods that many of us are used to just sliding along from one to the other. Good days, not so good days, even worse days, better days, etc., etc. And this spurious notion that the doing of things is attached to, or should be attached to, how you feel about the doing of them. You know, basically the message is, if you are feeling positive, great, get on with what you have to get on with. If you're feeling negative, but not so negative that you can't do something, well, too bad for the moment, hopefully you'll feel better tomorrow, and get on and do the things you need to do, if it's important for you to do them. Yeah, that was a revelation. That was a revelation. And I've kind of just proven it a bit again by doing this video, because I kind of thought, oh, I can't do a video, I don't feel in the mood, I'm not prepared, I don't want to go on and just rant and ramble. And so instead of, instead of letting my feelings about all of that stop me, I thought, you know, stuff it, I'm just going to do it. And I've just done it. Whether it turns out to be a good thing or not will be revealed by whether you like this video or not, or whether anyone watches this video or not. Anyway, I thought it might be an idea if we maybe finished with, because I've said what I have to say, that was it, that was my revelation. I thought it might be nice if we finished with a little oracle reading, just to see if there's a message for us in relation to all of this stuff that I've been talking about, or indeed in relation to anything. And I've picked the oracle deck that happens to be closest, but also because I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's one of these decks that I actually just kind of ignored for a while, or just wasn't interested in, until I actually properly looked at it and thought, I absolutely love it. And it is the Wicca Deck. I've shown this before. Look at the images. I've not done a walkthrough, but maybe I should do a walkthrough. Should I do a walkthrough of this deck? Oh look, Maya is Maya is looking at me. That is so freaky. She's not looked at me the whole video, and as I pulled this card she went and looked at me. Freaking me out. Black cat. Psychism. Oh boy. Look. Bats. Aren't they cute? The cord, initiation. I love the fact, now those I think are the tattva symbols which you use for meditation. I love the fact that this deck is a Wicca deck, but it incorporates, you know, very interesting imagery. It's not bound just by what you would think. So for example, there's the Yod He, Vav He in the Cone of Power. And I'm sure in here somewhere we've got the traditional stuff like Spell Book or Book of Shadows. Crone, love that card. The Raven, you cannot go wrong with a Raven. Broomstick, look at that, Broomstick. This is a perfect deck, of course, for heading towards Samhain. I want to show you, there's one in particular that I love because it is very clearly coming from a different tradition. Here we are. So it's not this one, there's the goddess one, which you would expect. But then you have cloak, camouflage, clearly referencing the Hindu chakra system. And look at that image. It's just, there's something about this deck that really, really speaks to me. Anyway, I'm barbling on. So, yeah, so I thought I'd do a reading, just pull a card from this deck for us all in the spirit of revelations and remembering that we can get good things done even when we don't feel good, and we don't have to feel a certain way. We can allow ourselves to just feel how we feel and just still get on with our lives. That's not a bad thing to do. And it's more productive. And I've just dropped all the cards. Well, not all of them. I've dropped some of the cards, but that's just because it's that kind of day. That's okay. You notice how full of equanimity I am now because I've made peace with my mood for the day. I've made peace with the events that Maya's looking at me again. Yeah, we're doing a reading, Maya. Do you want to pick the card? Certainly doesn't. She just buried her head in her paws. Right, so for us, for all of us, let's just go for it. Crone. I said I like that one. So what does the crone have to say to us? Now, release. Release. That is the tone. Well, I suppose what springs to mind for me there, of course, immediately, is this notion of releasing the need to feel a particular way. Releasing the idea that one has to be attached to a particular feeling in order to get things done. And just being at peace with how one feels, whether one feels good or bad or indifferent, and just letting that be. But let's see what Sally Morningstar has to say about the crone. And I'll probably, if you'll excuse me, I will need my glasses. And I might need more light. No, we'll manage, I think. So the crone, this is, the key word is release. The vibration is the crown chakra, so it relates each of these cards to a different chakra. Other keywords include wisdom, release, maturity. The crone is an aspect of the triple goddess, the other two aspects being the maiden and the mother. Crone is the wise one, the elder. She stands in the north and represents the death or release aspect of evolution. Crone goddesses include Hecate, Ceridwen, Medusa, Nephthys and Holda. Crone energy is a vital part of change. Without release, there can be no progress. And the meaning of the card is outlined as such. The crone sees that you are being called to the wisdom place, to go within and release any attachments to the outside world, so that you can gather understanding of your current experiences and make sense of your life. A maturity is called for that gives no place to familiar emotional patterns or thought processes, but rather uses each opportunity to see beyond the illusions of small self and so step into a far greater reality. Could that be any more apt to what we've been talking about? The crone coming into your life now shows that you have just experienced, or will shortly experience, a change or release that requires some deep responses. You are being advised to let go and let life shape itself. And I kind of think in my head to add to that ... because it will anyway. High note is life is change, embrace your wisdom. And the low note of the card is there is no need to stand in the dark. Isn't that lovely? I think it's lovely. I love that. And as I say, it's very, very apt. So I think I might do a walkthrough of this deck at some point, because I could do with just learning a bit more about it. And yeah, it just enchants me. It really, really does. It's a lovely, lovely deck. Oh, gorgeous. Wisdom Keeper. So, anyway, I don't want to go on too long because I've gone on for quite a while already. So there we are. A revelation and a reading. Take care. I'll see you soon.